Good evening, everyone. As always, it's nice to see you. A couple of announcements about the schedule, the upcoming schedule. There is a retreat planned April 9, 10, and 11. Details are on my website, and we'd love to have you. It's an online retreat, and hopefully, after this online retreat, I'll eventually have a residential retreat again. But it's a nice way to meet, because people can join from all over the world. And so I encourage you, if you feel called to join us, please do. I've always found retreat is such a powerful time, a time when I've made huge, massive steps on the path. And, I could even say that a little differently, that God plays a little game with us when we take one step toward God. She takes 10 steps toward us. And so a retreat may seem like a big sacrifice as a human being, but in the scope of things, it's actually it's actually quite easy. Just showing up and meditating, sitting, listening, sharing your heart. And when we open in this way, God sees that and comes forward, and oftentimes brings forward an incredible grace. And so I encourage you, if you can make it, please join us, and details are on my website. In regards to the schedule, I'm doing a little traveling in the next couple weeks. But next Sunday, March 14th, there will be no satsang. There will be satsang the following Sunday, the 19th, and I'll just continue on. But no satsang Sunday, March 14th, and no meditation Wednesday, March 17th. So I'll just clarify that. I'll be gone 2 days, March 14th and March 17th. Now, I always like to say this just because, sometimes plans change. Please check on Facebook the night of, and there's a chance that I might be back, or sometimes my travels get canceled because of big snowstorms and that kind of thing here in Colorado. So as of right now, no satsang the 14th and no meditation on the 17th. But we will be having meditation on the 10th and all the other days. So anyways, I hope that's clear. And so I'm going to invite you all just to kind of drop into your body. Just begin to notice what is awake and aware and alive. And despite any story or any thoughts in your mind, what's here right now that is awake and aware, vibrant and alive. And we're giving ourselves permission to connect with this, to connect with this depth of being beyond the character, beyond the character. Now, a moment ago, when I signed into my Facebook account to start the live stream, Facebook sent me a little message saying, you are interacting. You are interacting now as Craig Holiday. I thought that was funny. It was telling me the character of who was interacting. The role that was coming forward. The face, who was putting the face to the presence. I'm going to invite you to notice, does your ego do that? Does it put a face to your presence? Does it put a story to your presence? Does it put an age and a gender And I'm going to invite you just to feel into your body right now. Feel into that which is essential, that which is deeper than your character, deeper than who Facebook is telling you you're supposed to be, deeper than what your ego is telling you you're supposed to be. So what is it that you are? Beyond your age, beyond your gender, beyond your thoughts, what is it that you are? What is it that's been here in every moment of your life? Can you feel into this? Can you take the backward step? Out of the human character. And give yourself permission to melt into that which is beyond, that which is before thought, before emotion. And so let's just breathe here for some time, just feeling, opening, connecting. Connecting. And so as you feel inside, can you, do you, notice an inner radiance? A radiance that has no beginning and no end. Or just the fundamental sense of aliveness. Can you feel this? Can you feel the warmth of your heart? And for some of us, sometimes there's pain here. There's a veil of pain. And if that's you, can you soften around that veil? If there's tightness or tension in your heart, there's busyness or impatience, can you soften there? Can you soften? So we're breathing a little bit more deeply and connecting into the belly. Can you feel a gentle strength in your belly? Something that has outlived every moment of your life, every experience, every trauma, every shortcoming, every fail. There's a quiet strength that's here, like a mountain. And so let us just breathe deeply and connect to this quiet strength in the belly, this gentle, radiant love in the heart. Just feeling and opening, feeling and opening. And so I'm going to move on into the question part of the program now, but I encourage you to stay with your experience, to stay with your experience. And if you have a question or something you'd like to share, concise is good. I encourage you to raise your hand, bring it forward in the chat, and I'd be happy to spend a little time with you. Earlier today, as I was scanning my emails, I've gotten quite behind again. I noticed people sending me very long, detailed emails about interpersonal relationships. And, they were wanting my advice, and, sometimes, it feels that my role is like being one of those, like Ann Landers, like in the newspaper back in the back in the 80s or 90s, 70s, whenever it was, and where people would write these questions and I'd respond. And I was thinking, for a moment, it's really hard when people write me long emails because just the nature of my mind, I have a hard time following them. I can do it if it's an in-person session, but if it's during the email, it's much more difficult. And to be honest, I was feeling a little bit humbled by my job. Some people who write me long emails I know, and some I don't know. And I just thought, I can't do this. Like, I can't just give a quick 1-2 answer. And feeling, a little bit like failing, at the job or at the request. But then I took a step even further back and I realized, oftentimes it's good for us to struggle. Oftentimes it's good for us to write long emails to ourselves, where we're asking our heart, how should I respond? I don't know the answer here. It's not coming immediately. People think that with enlightenment, you always know the right answer immediately. And there's some truth to that. And the reason is when you've kind of cleared the clouds, there's a lot more clarity and you can hear the voice of your heart much more quickly. But sometimes life gives you things that you can't just have a quick, pithy answer to. There's a benefit in struggling and tripping over something again and again. The Christian word for this is contemplation, where you deeply contemplate a question. You sit with it. You struggle with it. You fight with it. In Zen, they have these koans that are, what is the sound of one hand clapping? And of course, we can't answer it. We have to sit with it deeply and trip over it. What was your face, before your mother was born? It's like, huh. But in life, sometimes we don't always have these deep spiritual questions. Sometimes they're interpersonal dynamics, which are very much an integral part of the path. Where we find ourselves arguing with our partner or our child or ourself. And it's important that we struggle. When we struggle, we get to know the parts of ourselves that are not us and that which is us. When we struggle, oftentimes we discover our shadow, our mask, the different layers of the ego. In fact, someone brought this question forward. It's a beautiful question. It's from Nick. He said, Craig, what is the difference between ego, inner child, and inner critic? And when we're struggling, there's a good chance we're going to get to know these three. Now, some teachers would just say it's all ego, anything that isn't just pristine, empty, spacious awareness is all ego. And there's a truth to that from an absolute perspective. But there's also a non-truth to that from an absolute perspective, because it doesn't honor the nuance. It doesn't honor the nuance. So, if I'll be blunt here, what is ego? Ego is anything that causes a division between you and God, between you and life. Ego is the very mechanism that helps you to individuate. If we didn't have an ego, we'd be like little babies who come into the world and you just experience undifferentiated oneness, where you think you are your environment, your mother, the wall. It's babies are so magical before the egos come online. The first couple of days, like they'll hit themselves in the face and they'll look at their hand like, what's that? Like, why does it hurt? Why is there a feeling there? And so an ego is the thing that helps you to individuate. Now, I don't like thinking of ego as a dirty word. I like to think of ego as a stepping stone in the evolutionary track that we are all on. We are evolving out of animal beings into individual human beings, and we need an ego to do that. We need an ego to do that. Like if you look at ants, they don't really have very strong egos. They all kind of work together in this communal thing. Bees, are real similar. They work together in a communal way. And so, human beings, we have egos, and egos help us to individuate. They also help us to grow out of animal nature and into human nature. And eventually we let go of ego and grow out of human nature and into divine nature. So the inner child is a fun mix, like a really tender, sweet, innocent aspect of the heart. And so an inner child in the most healthy form is actually a quality of heartfelt awareness. So the inner child, when it's operating in its highest form, is the innocence of awareness. And you might meet some people on the path who've awoken to vast spacious awareness, like just non-dual emptiness, but who have no connection to their inner child. They say, oh, that's all ego. And their presence will have a sharpness to it, a harshness to it, or a numbness or a deadness or a dryness. And, not to pick on the Buddhists, but many Buddhists suffer from this. They open into vast spacious awareness, but it's a really dry, almost philosophical, vast spacious awareness. But when they come down into the heart and get to know the inner child, compassion comes online, and the inner child will manifest as the innocence of awareness, like a tenderness, a childlikeness. And if you've ever been around any great saints before, which is of course a rare gift, but I've been around a number of saints, and oftentimes they have just this childlike brilliance to them, where they can just be like a little child and just start to play and joke and laugh and not take life so seriously. The inner child, when it's awake, this is where when the heart comes alive, you start to see, it's like you see the sky for the first time, how big it is. You see the ocean, how big it is. You look at a mountain and you're just amazed by the colors of the rock and its massive size. And so that's what the inner child is like in a healthy form. In an unhealthy form, or I could say that differently, in a beaten down form, the inner child is an aspect of ego, kind of gets trampled by life, gets beat up. And so it's kind of just like stuck in the fetal position. And it can be really fearful, really scared, really hurt, really traumatized. But the more you meet the trauma with love, with unconditional love, then the trauma is grieved, it's healed, it's transformed. And what you're left with is this supreme innocence of the inner child. So again, inner child is not just an ego thing, it's actually an aspect of awareness. The inner critic is another aspect of ego. The inner critic is the one who judges you, who attacks you, or who's attacking other people. Inner critic oftentimes is in the YouTube comment section, telling people how they're wrong, they're not doing it right. When people have self-hatred, that's the inner critic. Self-judgment, that's the inner critic. Oh, I hate myself. I'm so stupid for what I did. That kind of thing. Just it's an act of violence. Now, if you look at the inner critic and just ask the inner critic, like, what do you need? Oftentimes the inner critic is trying to protect you. So it has a job of trying to protect you. But normally it doesn't do such a good job of it. It's kind of like, say if I was a single man and I wanted to ask a girl out on a date, my inner critic might come forward, and tell me to shut up, or you're not good enough, Craig. She's out of your league, or some silly thing like that. What the inner critic will do is it will help me to reject me before anyone else can reject me, if that makes sense. And so it kind of, you shoot yourself in the foot, so then you never have to go outside and never get hurt. But you're busy bleeding out at home. And so it's a silly thing. The inner critic. Now, when the inner critic is really honored and brought into a space of truth, it will actually transform into the realm of discernment. Discernment. So for me, like I don't have an inner critic anymore. I used to have a really strong one, but and so in its place now is discernment. Discernment will help you see right from wrong, good from bad, up from down. Will lead you on the path. And so when we struggle with these questions, these deep interpersonal questions of life, oftentimes we'll meet our ego, and our ego will say, I don't like this person. They wronged me. I want them out of my life. It's typical egoic response. The inner child will say, I don't like this person. They hurt me. They hurt me so much, and it's not fair. And I need to just shut down. And the inner critic will say, yes, let's shut down and let's stay shut down. You can't trust anyone. In fact, you can't even trust yourself because you've got yourself in this situation anyways. And so oftentimes we'll see these three voices come forward in one form or another. And the great question is, can you respond to these three voices with love? Unconditional love and unconditional strength. So when the ego says, I've been hurt, I want to shut down, when we meet that with discernment, we can just ask, well, does shutting down help me? When we shut down, it normally just puts us in our own prison cage. It enslaves us when we shut down. We're stuck behind the walls of ego. And so, of course, when we come into our heart, we say, oh, no, I don't want to shut down. And then the great question becomes, am I willing to open and to feel? Am I willing to open and to feel? Through the doorway of feeling, we become liberated. When you connect to your presence and you give yourself permission to open and to feel everything without turning away, without hiding, without putting on a mask or taking on a role, but just feeling. Any feeling which is untrue will burn up, or will be grieved, it'll empty out of you. And the feeling that is true, which is your presence, will stay. Will stay. And so many of us will find this in life, that we'll struggle. We will trip over a question. Or God will put us in a, in between a rock and a hard place. And we'll trip there, we'll fall, we'll get stuck. And we're supposed to be stuck because during this fire of being stuck, we get to know all these voices in our head, all these characters, and we're given an opportunity to bring them into the light. The ego always says, I need to fix it on the outside. But with spirituality, oftentimes we can fix stuff on the inside, and then the outside changes. The outside changes. So anyways, it's a beautiful question from Nick. If anyone else has a question, you can raise your hand, bring it forward. Okay, our good friend Richard has a question. I always smile when I see Richard coming forward. If anyone else has a question, I feel like one of those school teachers trying to get the rest of the class to engage. And I'm just going to say this, many of you, when I look out at you, give me a poker face. And I have a hard time understanding what's going on. I understand smiles and I understand suffering, but a poker face, that's just confusing for me. Either way, my heart's with you. My heart's with you. Okay. Here's a question from Slade. What an awesome name, Slade. Thanks, Craig. It's great to be here. I have a question. Lately, there have been an expansion to a nearly ever breath awareness, and yet it is not acutely prevalent during sleep, like I hear about so much. Lucid dreams do occur sometimes, but not awareness in deep sleep. How important is this as a touchstone along the path? Yeah, that's a fun question. Sometimes if we listen to a show like Rick Archer's show, Boot at the Gas Pump, if we listen to a show like that too much, Rick will mark, all these, different milestones on the path of spiritual awakening. And, one of the great ones is awareness ever present all the time, even when you're asleep? And, I can say this, that for some people, that's just a lovely experience. For other people, it's actually quite difficult when awareness just never turns off. I can say this personally, that when awareness started coming online, even while I was sleeping, I had tremendous trouble sleeping. In fact, I was just wishing that it would just shut off so I could just go into a deep sleep where I didn't exist anymore, and just be able to shut everything off. And so, Slade, it's a beautiful thing when awareness doesn't shut off, but also it can be a real pain in the neck too, a pain in the butt, because sleep gets weird. You might not sleep at all for some time if awareness is always on. That's what happened with me. A lot of colleagues I've met along the paths, other spiritual teachers or fellow awakened beings have told me that as well. It's like, gosh, I just want to go to sleep and have normal dreams and not lucid dreams and just be able to shut everything off and disappear. And so, so the thing I'll say, if you want to experience this, just place your attention there. God tends to play a game with us. If wherever you place your intention and attention, that thing grows. That thing grows. And so see what comes forward. But you might find that it's not really what you're wanting or what you were expecting. if you can never just shut off, that there's something beautiful about having deep sleep without awareness. And you just disappear and merge into emptiness and wake up the next day and come online again. It's really rejuvenating for the body. But of course, one of the things I've learned is you can get used to anything, even if awareness doesn't shut off. Okay. Here's one from Justine. Hi, Craig. Being raised a Catholic, I find your meditations very easy, particularly when we surrender to the love of the Divine Mother. But it kind of feels that all divinity is outside of ourselves rather than within. Are you able to elaborate on this a little bit more, please? Yeah. Yeah. So there's a funny thing that happens, especially in the Christian path, where you start off in a dualistic way. You call upon God to come into you. But more and more as you surrender into God coming into you, you begin to realize that you and God are one, that there's really no separation, that the mind of God is your mind, the heart of God is your heart, the love of God is your love. And, the whole dualistic dance begins to dissolve. And the further you walk on this path, even if you start off very dualistic like I did, what you'll find is it all goes into a similar place of just total non-duality. Total non-duality. And that being said, I'll contradict that a little bit as well. Even though that's true, what I just said, there's always an aspect of the human that's here, of our evolving edge. There's always an aspect of, the human individual receiving. Even if you go into, say, the experience of no self, you rest there for some time. When you get up and you trip over your feet and you step on the dog and, the neighbor runs into your car, or you get the coronavirus or whatever it is, you get cancer, a friend or someone you love dies or is dying. You begin to reawaken to this paradox again of being human. Being human and being divine. And Justine, I like to open to both and instead of either or. To both and. And one of the great non-dual masters of the last century, Sri Ramakrishna, was Vivekananda's teacher. He used to just go into great, states of immense samadhi. Then he'd come out of them and he'd be chanting the name of the Divine Mother. And if you see a great saint like Amachi, Amma from South India, from Kerala, she does the same thing. She rests in non-dual nature, and then, she'll be singing hymns and bhajans to the divine. And at some point, it all just merges into one. It all merges into one. So if you're feeling that divinity is outside of yourself, that means, that points to that there's still a strong attachment to ego. But the more you soften and love your ego to death, like I spoke about with the first question, what you will find is that the division between you and God will start to dissolve because there's no longer veils within you. So the more you love yourself, the less veils are within your consciousness. Okay, let's hear from Richard. Are you here, Richard?
Hey,
There you are.
everyone. Hi, it's good to see you. Facebook friends. I was thinking the person with the most astute poker face is none other than our lovely friend Denny Pham. Um, so my question. Greg, a few times over the last year, you've
Yeah.
talked about things going on in your family that were just like devastating. Um, um, Moments where you kind of look to the divine and just say, "What the hell?" And I'm sure simultaneously have a deep surrender, right? It's kind of a both and
Yeah.
moment. But I would like to talk about those moments. I think I'm certainly in one of them where, and I've brought this up throughout the weeks, where somebody who I love very deeply, I had to kind of part ways with, and that happened like for real this last Wednesday, and I just noticed I'm just wrecked
Yeah.
and kind of obliterated, and I'm just wondering like why would this, again, parts of me are surrendered, parts of me understand, all of that is there, right? I'm more just wanting to speak to that layer of like, what the fuck. So that's my question. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question. That goes back to the first question that I brought up is sometimes we just struggle. We just struggle. And the Buddha, this was his first teaching, that life in a sense is a struggle, a great struggle. To think that it would be otherwise um, is is in a sense to go against the Dharma. It's like, look, life in human form is a struggle. We're individuals. We fall in love. We want the other individual to stay with us for the rest of our life. We want it to work out. That's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. But oftentimes, beautiful things don't work out. Oftentimes, pain is just a part of life. If I was a good Buddhist, I might just say something like, it is what it is. And this is how life is sometimes. Uh, this is the way of things. We love deeply, and then our hearts are broken. And then we love deeply again, and our hearts are broken again. And then we love deeply again, and our heart just breaks open. It just breaks open. But does it hurt to be human? Yeah. Yeah, this has been the toughest year. 2020 was the toughest year of my life. And I've been through all kinds of stuff, but it was the toughest year of my life. And so, I hate to say it because it might sound a little cliche, but I mean, heartbreak, there's something so beautiful about heartbreak because it pushes you into these states of surrender, pushes you beyond mind. It shows you just radical humility. Like, I am not in charge. I'm not in charge. I'm not going to sort this out. I'm not going to fix it. The carpet has been pulled out from under me. Someone else is in charge. Something greater is in charge. And, oftentimes when we come up against something of just brutal heartbreak, we just don't understand it. It forces us to grieve. It forces us to fall on our knees. I mean, we can stand up and fight and kick and scream and moan and shout and raise our fists to God, but, you know, it just humbles you. It really humbles you. It really breaks the ego down. And in modern day spirituality, especially if anyone follows like prosperity gospel stuff, like The Secret and these types of things, um, the teachings of Abraham, this and that. Sometimes we can get on this wavelength of like, I can manifest anything and I'm in charge and I create my reality. And there is an absolute truth to that. But there's also an absolute counter truth to that that shows, no, you are not in charge. You were never in charge. And it's all predestined and predetermined. And is it and is it not? And both and neither. And it's so humbling to live in this world. And especially, for those of us who are awakening, oftentimes we get a little bit of, we kind of puff up a little bit and think we know what's going on and we think we're in charge of our life. I'm the awakened one, and life will come right along and pull the carpet out from under you and just drop you right on your face. Just drop you right, kick you between the legs, punch you in the stomach and drop you on your face. And it's humbling. I mean, my God, look what happened to Christ. When Paul would speak about Christ, he oftentimes spoke about the absurdity of the cross, just the absolute absurdity of nailing a man to a cross. Christ of all figures, just the absurdity of it. And a question I always like to ask, instead of like, why did this happen or why does it have to be so painful? I like to look at, well, what's the intelligence of this? What is the intelligence behind this? Sometimes the intelligence is as simple as, hey, you had a soul contract, and this contract ended on whatever, Wednesday, let's call that March 3rd, 2021. That's it. That's the end of the deal. We're done. And that's something, that God sat the two of you down up in heaven and said, okay, this is it. You're going to be together for this long. It's going to end on this date. And, maybe it's purely as simple as you had a contract. Now, oftentimes, I like to take it one step beyond that. I say, well, God, what is that contract here for? What is it doing? Well, it's going to teach you how to surrender. It's going to teach you how to be humble. It's going to teach you about heartbreak. One of the things with love, with a romantic partner, is there's so much projection in it. There's so much codependency. There's so much, I need you, I want you, I have to have you. And when that's taken away, God is teaching us almost always to love ourselves unconditionally. To love ourselves. And there's a real shift that happens inside of us when the inner child stops looking to another to love us. So the inner child in the beginning looks to mom and dad to love us, but they die or they get sick or they're alcoholics or they're abusive or they're just, they don't know how to do it. And mom and dad fail at it, and they're supposed to fail. In fact, every partner we have is supposed to fail and let us down, literally. Supposed to. And I want everyone to hear this. Every partner, every best friend is supposed to fail you. They're not supposed to love you unconditionally. If they did, you become dependent upon them. You need them. They're supposed to love you, to the best of their ability and then drop the ball. When they drop the ball, the inner child screams, and has this big attachment wound, like, I need them. And the inner child is left abandoned. And then in that abandonment, the child starts to look for something different. And it'll look for God. If the child's smart, will look to God or look to your own heart. And when the inner child plugs into God and plugs into you, there's a different kind of strength that comes forward. the strength of mastery. There's something that gives birth that cannot be broken inside. It can be hurt, like I can absolutely be hurt, deeply be hurt. But there's something in us when the inner child connects with our true heart, then it's just like plugged right in to the source of love. And then we discover that, oh, there's a love that has no end within me. How about I give that to myself instead of demanding someone else do it for me? Instead of demanding someone else do it for me. So there's a great wisdom in failed relationships. And again, every relationship will fail, literally, and they're supposed to. Everyone will betray you. Everyone will let you down, literally. They're supposed to. Some people come to me and say, Craig, I'm so angry because my spiritual teacher let me down. They betrayed me. They're supposed to. They're supposed to. Because then it forces you to find the truth that you found in, Maharishi, whoever. So you find that truth within your own self. You find that truth in God. You find it in the source. And look, I didn't make this world. I didn't make the rules. I wish it was different. I wish it was like, you just fall in love with someone and just melt into them and become just a blob of love together. But it doesn't work that way. Katy Perry can sing all kinds of songs about it, Taylor Swift or whoever. But when I was a kid, it was Madonna. You just fall in love and that's it. But it's an illusion. It's an illusion. But then, we have to be careful because a lot of people take that, it's an illusion, and they become hardened. And that's not the truth either. The truth is to let yourself love deeply. So deeply that your human heart is broken so many times that eventually it breaks open and stays open and stays open. And this is just one of the brutal teachings of grace is if we truly want to be awake, we have to know about unconditional love, unconditional strength, unconditional clarity. So clarity will tell us, I don't need this person. I do love them. I certainly miss them, but I don't need them. And, oh wait, I'll see him again next lifetime. I'll see him again next lifetime. I will. We all will. We all will. We see each other again and again and again. And so it's not like, the ego thinks just in terms of one lifetime, like, oh, we broke up and it's forever done. And it's like, no, it's just like having like a summer off in school. Like you don't see your friends, but then you come back in the fall and they're all there again. And when we die, we wake up the next realm. If it's someone important to us, we see them again. They just travel with us. Actually, we can't escape them. Many of them we can't escape, even if we want to. So anyways, my heart's with you, Richard. It's, sometimes it's fun just to put on some of those 80s love ballads, just love hurts. Love hurts. And just milking it, I like just to milk it just out of you, just like the pain and grieve and grieve and grieve and grieve. But while you're grieving, it's you attending to you. And it's very important to stop the thoughts of, I need them, I want them, but just rather kind of reframe those into, no, I need me. I love me. I'm going to be here with me fully and completely. When you love the inner child to death, the one who's heartbroken, then the child shows up as indestructible love, an innocence that cannot be harmed, cannot be destroyed. My greatest teacher was heartbreak. I've got a big heart, and I was always falling in love. I still am always falling in love. So you get your heart broken a lot, but then you realize, oh, it can't be it can only be broken open. It still hurts. It still hurts. But anyways, good to hear from you. Okay, how about Kirsten? Let's see if I can unmute Kirsten here. Hi, Kirsten. Can we hear you?
Yep.
There you
Hi.
are.
Just had my son Liam come in. He's scared, so can't sleep. Okay, I'll
Okay.
be right. Okay, turn on the light. Turn on the light in your room, and you can read. Okay.
And if you want to hang out with him for a little bit and come back, you can. Do you need to do that?
Nope, that's good. If he turns on the light and reads, he'll be
Okay.
fine.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Um, it's really cute, but he just made me a sign because he knew
Yeah.
he wasn't supposed to interrupt me.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
little sweetheart.
I wanted to talk today about. I had seen recently a video by Peter Levine, who
Mhm.
is a trauma specialist,
Sure.
and he talked about how shame has actually a very similar physiological response to trauma. And I found that really interesting. And I have I had by nature a very strong inner critic, and I've worked through it a lot and really come very far in that. But I find myself every once in a while, all of a sudden, like I go from my normal and then I go down to swamped, just completely swamped by it. And
But by the
today that
shame?
happened. Yes. Or it can either be like swamped by it, or it can be this kind of numbed state of shame, where it's almost like a defeat, a very calm defeat,
Yeah.
where I'm not. It happened today that a couple parents that are impeccable, and their children are so articulate and impeccable, and they came to drop off the kids for a play date, and I saw myself all of a sudden just in our interaction, kind of all of a sudden contracting, feeling small, feeling not enough. And it's so strange for me when that surfaces, because I'm usually, you know, you know, I've grown past that. But so it's just very frustrating when all of a sudden I find myself sinking so much into this kind of cognitive place where I'm seeing myself as less than,
Yeah.
and surprised that I haven't broken the pattern once
Yeah.
again. It
Yeah.
surfaces.
Yeah. So I'll say this. So when another layer of an old
Hmm.
thing comes forward with this guilt, shame, anger, sadness, grief, whatever it is, all it means is that there's an aspect of yourself that needs more love.
Hmm.
There's an aspect of self that needs more love. So the last thing we want to do is judge it and say, I already did this. This shouldn't be happening again. We want to say, oh, look, you're here. You're here. Welcome. I welcome you. I
Hmm.
welcome you into the light. I welcome you into my heart. I welcome you. So oftentimes with shame, there can be like a hiding aspect of it. So shame's kind of, I don't want to say sneaky, but it acts sneaky. It like can hide things within us. It can help to bury things within us. It kind of just throws it, represses them. And so, when there's shame in the room, what we want to do is we want to normalize it as quickly as possible. So like, say, for example, if one of my little girls, if she's feeling shame about, telling a lie or doing something, I'll lift her up and say, sweetie, it's okay. Like daddy understands you are still fully loved. It's okay. Daddy's done that in the past as well. So I make it normal, whatever it is, the thing that she felt that she needed to be ashamed of. And so we want to lift it up and bring it into the light. And so what we'll find in life is there'll be times when we run into people and, sometimes we'll just feel, we're all on the same page and even. And other times we'll run into people and we'll feel like, super low. And, I've had this experience often. Sometimes if I have a friend who's like when I was broke for like 20 years of my adult life, and if I ever had friends who just made tons of money, I felt, just a sense of shame about where I was financially. Here I am driving a 93 Toyota, it's like, um, I just feel this less than. And so as soon as I felt that, I just bring it into the light. I wouldn't say I shouldn't be here. I've already faced this. I've done a lot of work around it. I wouldn't say any of that. I would just say, oh, there's more. And I happily embrace more. Because it's just an aspect of self that's coming forward, wanting more love. And the good news is you have a big heart. You have a big heart. And so let's love all these aspects. Let's meet them with tenderness, with kindness. Let's look at them deeply and say, what is this shame about? Oh, it seems like the other parents have their act together and I feel like I don't, something like that. Can I feel into that? Can I forgive myself for being a less than perfect parent, which it's like join the club, less than perfect parent. And, can you forgive yourself for being human, for falling on your face, for having this aspect that is scared, or just like your boy, he's like wrote a big sign like, hey mom, I'm scared. And so we say, yeah, I love you,
Very soon I'm
sweetie.
going to run over to hang out with him.
Yeah. So you hang out with him and you hang out with you. And this is a big thing we do as a parent. I've done this a lot where I'm taking care of my child, like my physical child. And I'm also simultaneously taking care of the one inside who feels guilty or who feels shame. And so I love them both equally. Sometimes as parents, especially as mothers, we put ourselves last, like so far last. And then, that tends to reinforce the shame.
Yeah.
So to bring it into the light, and, if we're going to do it meditatively, basically, the practice is can you feel just all the sensations of shame? Can you feel all the sensations of less than? Can you feel all those and welcome them? Welcome them into the light. And sometimes it can even feel like nauseating or like icky. Sometimes shame comes with like heat or nausea. Sometimes it comes with sharpness or fierceness. And can we breathe into it? Can we feel into it? Sense, can we make love with it? We're just breathing love fully and deeply into the shame. And we do it as long as it takes. So if there's 100 more layers of it, we do this, for 100 more meditations, 100 more days, 100 more years. We do it as long as it takes. And as we do so, we give birth to unconditional love. If we judge it, we reinforce it. Go ahead.
And you mentioned that you used to have a pretty harsh inner critic, and and it's not completely left, but I imagine what you're saying is mostly it's dissipated.
Yeah, no, I'd even go as far as say he's he's a happy guy now. So it's I have to work really hard to pull forth any criticism of myself.
Wow.
As far as like an inner critic thing, I had a inner drill sergeant is what what he manifested. Just like would screaming at me, you can sleep when you're dead, Craig, that kind of thing. But yeah, he was really harsh, and in a sense, he was the internalized version of my father. And it's through loving my father and completely forgiving my father, like as I was doing that work for about 15 years, the critic really began to soften and soften and soften and soften and soften. And now I would have to, like go on a really long walk in the deep innards of my psyche to find any aspect of him. So the inner critic can completely transform into simply discernment. And discernment can be just simple as like don't do that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have any harshness to it. You know, like I'm not really a sweet guy, but say if I was and I was getting ready to eat one too many cookies on Christmas Eve or something, you know, the discernment would just be like, just don't do that. You know, but it comes with a softness. Whereas the critic comes with harshness. And oftentimes, you know, that comes with a harshness because it feels divided from the heart. But when the critic is brought into the heart deeply and fully and melts, then you have wisdom, but it comes with a softness or power, or both, like a soft power, but not like a this, you know, it comes just like, hey, don't go there. Like, don't touch that. It's not going to end well. It's almost like a, you know, like the, you know, like for me, it just feels like an old man, wise voice of just like, if you go there, it's going to hurt. You know, like, but then if you see me, it's like I'm laughing. You know, like there's a laughter to it of just like knowing from experience, versus the critic would be like, don't go there. You're an idiot. Don't do that. You're stupid. You know, or you know, something really harsh. You know, that'd be an extreme example, but and there'd be a contraction there. And so as you bring the shame and or the critic into the heart and just meet it with love again and again and again, unconditionally, with great patience. So I'm talking, you know, this is decade work. It's not like year work. This is goes on over the period of at least a decade. It softens. And then as it softens, you just get the healthy quality of the critic, which is discernment with zero sharpness. And even if you make the mistake of not listening to the discernment, there's forgiveness there too. And so like, even if I make a really big mistake, there's immediate forgiveness for my humanity. So there's not like, oh, you were an idiot. No, there's just like, oh yeah, okay. You think you can get away. But you're smiling, you know, and there's a softness and a love that's there. So these things can fundamentally transform, but the more we rush it and put like you know, like a date on when it should be done, or saying, well, I've gone to 4 years of therapy now, or I've gone to 10 years, it should be done by now. When we hold on to any time frame, that aspect of self will resist the same way a teenager will resist when you're trying to make a teenager do something. But when you love like a teenager fully to death, just fully, they actually grow up and they mature and they kind of come around in a healthy way, if that makes sense. Yeah. So keep going forward with love and with softness. And I'm going to say this about you. Oftentimes, like when I've met with you, you've acknowledged that you've done a lot of work, and that's a good thing. But I'm going to invite you to soften that and just have a sense of, I've done a lot and there's a lot more to do too. And to be able to say that with a smile, not like, oh gosh, there's a lot more to do and I don't want to do it. I feel like I've already done enough. You know, when we get to this place where I've done a lot of work and I'm happy to continue to do this work for the rest of my life, it's like right about that time when there's that much softness and that much acceptance that these things really start shifting. They really start shifting. So anyways, go take care of your your boy. And so good to see you, Kirsten. Yeah. All right. Okay, let's hear from Bill. See if I can unmute you here, Bill.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Bill.
I can't see you. I see the previous person's bedroom.
Okay. Well, I'm here with you.
I see you now. Great. So thank you for the last answer. This is my first time with you here.
Yeah.
So basically, I've been I've had it started going through a heavy trauma release mid 2018. My father was passing away, and it was really super heavy Kundalini associated with trauma release thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I've been going through it since then, and so it's been calmed down quite a bit. But my question has to do with the meditation, because your answer, the last answer, was pretty good and informed some of the things I was thinking about. But the question I have is in terms of meditation, because you know, I might do sit meditation, do a little mantra like Satnam or something, like just something to center myself. But my mind would have this kind of like this it was such a deadening experience. The trauma was so deadening that it just closed really just was like a giant rock on my heart. So it just felt like so when I do my meditation, it's like I'm waking up from that rock, you know, under that rock. And I feel like sometimes I'm meditating on the rock, you know, I'm meditating on the dead part instead of the expansion. And, you know, it's like, you know, I know how to get breathing into it and that sort of thing. And, you know, I just like the Satnam mantra because it's very neutral. It just is a quiet one for me. And Sat seems to have energy for me to center in the center of my heart. But still, it's like, I get like, I feel like I'm meditating on the rock, you know, instead of meditating on softness or the expansion. And, you know, I'm wondering about that kind of aspect of things.
Yeah. So Bill, you know, if you close your eyes right now, can you feel the rock?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So who is it that notices that rock?
I do. I notice it.
Yeah. So who's that I?
My living being.
So you're being.
My life. Yeah, my life, living being.
Yeah. So if you feel into that presence of beingness, is it soft?
It's strong. It isn't soft so much as it's strong and vital.
It's strong and vital.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it loving?
Yeah, it's been coming up. It's been slowly coming up and just been at first kind of like feeling ugly, but now I'm feeling okay. And feeling masculine actually and penetrating.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd place your attention there. Place your attention on that loving aspect. And see if you can invite that love to expand. Mix with the vital. And so we want to get in touch with this first. As we feel this love, we feel the strength in the belly. And so we're surrendering into this, that this is what we are. And so we give ourselves permission just to melt into this. And if you melt into this, you'll let yourself expand and be loving and strong, which is your natural state. And then if you check in with the rock and just ask that rock, what do you need? What does the rock say to you?
I want to wake up,
Yeah,
be more alive, you know?
yeah, just to feel that, to wake up, to feel more alive. And so just opening that door. Part of being awake and being more alive is a willingness to feel the hugeness of your beauty, the hugeness of your strength, but also the willingness to feel without resistance the depth of your pain, the depth of the heartache. So this is how we open. This is how we wake up. Yeah. Yeah, so you just stay here, my friend. You just rest in this. Yeah, was this helpful, Bill?
Hmm?
Was this
Yes, yes,
helpful? Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. So I'm going to invite you just to continue to soften and to open to the beautiful presence that you are, the radiance, the strength. And whenever we have trauma, it can be helpful to connect to our goodness first. So we want to connect with our presence first, the goodness that we are. Sometimes the
Okay.
trauma can overwhelm our nervous system. If you step back and just like ask, like, who is it that sees the trauma? You connect with the presence that can see, the presence that witnesses the trauma. So we connect with that. And take your time to connect deeply and fully with that which is awake.
But
And then
sometimes,
go ahead.
sometimes it's resistant, and I don't. It just seems like it just, as you said, there's still lots of clinging or
Yeah, yeah,
resistance.
yeah. And so the clinging, it needs reassurance from you. But it doesn't need reassurance from your mind. It needs reassurance from your presence. So we want to step back and connect into the spaciousness, the love, the strength. And then we invite whatever's there to come forward. So if it's clinging, we say, okay, yes, please come cling to me. Come cling to me. I will embrace you. I will hold you. I will love you. I will welcome you. So your sweatshirt there says 10,000 victories, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's martial
Yeah,
arts. Yeah,
yeah, 10,000 victories. And so sometimes we have to do this. Like if we have a real hard rock, we embrace it 10,000 times. 10,000 times.
yeah.
10,000 times where we're holding it again and again and again, meeting it with love. Even if it's clinging, if it's, bringing out its nails and digging into us, we say, hey, you are welcome here. You are welcome here in this space. You are welcome here in this love. And I will hold you 10,000 times. 10,000. And I encourage you just to keep opening to this, but it's important. Sometimes people, they try to fix trauma with their mind, and then it feels like there's this disconnect, and then there's a resistance, and it just really, doesn't really work. But if you step back into your true heart, into your true presence, first, and kind of settle in there. So you connect to your love, and then you connect to your strength, and then we invite the pain forward and meet it with love again and again and again. And just like I was saying with Kirsten, we do this as long as it takes. As long as it takes. So in the Kung Fu tradition, they say 10,000 victories. So we're going to do it 10,000 times. The Muay Thai tradition, I think they say it's Sanchai. Again, it's 10,000 victories. So we're staying with it again and again. We keep opening. We keep stepping into it. Keep giving of ourselves and loving this thing, whatever it is. Sometimes we say it's just a rock, it's just a heaviness, it's just shame, it's just guilt, it's just my ego. Let us not call it that. Let us say this thing here that is within us is absolutely worthy of 10,000 embraces. It's worthy of 10,000 breaths. It's worthy of our full attention for 10,000 hours. So we meet it unconditionally. Unconditionally. Beautiful question, Bill. Thank you for coming forward and sharing your heart. I did get your emails. I was about to answer your question, so I'm glad you were brave enough to raise your hand and share your heart with us. Yeah, yeah. So nice. You're welcome here, my friend. Yeah,
Thank you.
beautiful, beautiful. Okay, let's see if I've got a couple more questions. See if I can pull it up. Here's a fun one. I get this question, a couple times a month. Hi, Craig. I was wondering what type of diet you recommend for Kundalini folks. I'm mostly vegetarian and eat a little fish here and there. We try to follow the alkaline diet. Sometimes I eat fish to help calm the energy in my body. It seems like heavier food is grounding, but maybe I just eat it to distract myself. So, I have an extremely strict diet, but my diet is strict because it's what my body likes and it's what my heart tells me to do. And so I eat a whole foods, vegetarian/vegan, organic diet. Don't put any junk in my system, and that works for me. That works for me. And so I tend not to. I like to tell people what they should eat. The big thing is with your body. I encourage you to listen to your body, not to the craving, like the egoic desire where he was saying at the end, maybe I just eat to distract. So we're not doing that. So you listen to your heart. The same way, just a moment ago, I was asking Kirsten to look inside, Bill to look inside. I'm asking Bob to look inside now. Ask, what's true? What is a true diet for me? Whether it's diet or sleep or exercise or whatever, what type of job, it all comes from your heart and from your body. What does your body want? What does your heart want? This is where we answer this question. This is where we answer. We go inside, we get quiet, and we just notice, food is fuel. So what kind of fuel makes your body function at the highest rate? Most effectiveness, the most aliveness. And so we don't want to just be stuffing ourselves. Okay, here's a question from Emily. Hi, Craig. I've been lurking for a few weeks. But this is my first question. I've heard people talk about a single soul living over many lifetimes. Some people report having dreams or memories from past lives. What is this all about? How does this work exactly? What does this imply for life after death? Boy, Emily, that's a big question. If you want the answer to those, ask God. Ask God what the response is. But I'll say this experientially. When you are open on the path, you are shown many things. Many things. Sometimes you're shown heaven worlds, bliss realms, worlds of void-like energy or great emptiness, spaciousness, expansion. Sometimes it's immense worlds of strength, worlds of Buddhas, worlds of angels. Sometimes you might just start to see, you might start to get visions of previous incarnations. When those visions come, only then will you know the truth of your previous incarnations, if it comes with a power. When it's true, it comes with a power. So I'm not speaking about a fantasy. But truth will be revealed to you. And I could tell you all kinds of things about past lives and other incarnations and who I was and this and that type of thing. But, then you're just going off my experience. The only way you'll ever believe any of it is when you experience it for yourself. And so, I went many years before I saw, any previous incarnations, but then they started to pop up. They started to pop up, and you start having deja vu type experiences. And what does it say about life after death? And for me, I don't like the word death because we don't die. We just live on forever. Apparently, we live on forever. There is no death. There's a death of the body, but not of the soul. The soul lives on forever. And so, I've been visited by many beings from the other realms. A lot of times, like if I'm meeting with someone and, their father, mother, sister, brother recently died, sometimes that being will come to me and, just send some love to the person I'm meeting with. And when you're open, you just start to see things. That's the best. That's the best I can tell you. You start to experience things, and you'll know it when you know it. You'll know it when you know it. Okay. Let's see here. Let me make sure I got all the questions to the best of my ability. Okay. So, let me just check the chat real quick. I'm having a real trouble with my, oh, here we go. Here's a question from David. Craig, can you describe your teachers, David and Adyashanti? Yeah, I'll do this. I'll do this kind of briefly here. My teacher, David, I've told this story a lot, but my teacher, David, I met him when I was about 18 years old. And as soon as I set foot, on his property and just looked into his eyes, I just knew. I just knew there was something big here. There was something big here. And my teacher, David, was an incredible, or he is an incredible master being. He's a teacher that didn't really want to be known. He really wanted to be anonymous. I'm really similar. Like, don't really want to be known. And he lived on a mountainside. He just moved to Durango, and I just moved to Durango. And then I worked for him for the next 2 decades. He taught me many things. He showed me, thousands and thousands of different realms, heaven worlds. Showed me all these different aspects of non-dual awakening. He showed me how to relate to God, how to relate to myself, how to relate to life. And he was just one of these beings who, it seemed like he just knew every single thing about me. Everything about me. And it was a beautiful relationship. He trained me like I was his apprentice. It was just old school, guru-disciple relationship. And so spent a tremendous amount of my life with him, where he trained me to do what I'm doing now. With my teacher, Adya felt more like just kind of like an older brother to me. Just an older brother or fellow friend on the path. And so he was great. He was super helpful. And Adyashanti, I mean, he's one of the greatest Western teachers of our day right now. And he has, hundreds and hundreds of students, or thousands of students. Whereas my teacher, David, when I met him, it was me and him. He had students on the East Coast and West Coast, but they'd come out a couple times a year, go on retreats, but it was me and him. And then eventually there's a group of 12 of us here in Durango that sat with him for the last couple decades. With Aji, it just felt like having a friend. With David, it was like a father and a great master, someone who could hold my hand and be with me. Someone who, I just call, he was on speed dial. And even if I was suffering, he'd just reach out to me and say, hey, what's going on with you? And just flood me with love, flood me with grace. he was a tremendous support, and I'm eternally grateful for the thousands, tens of thousands of hours my teacher David spent with me. I'm thankful for kind of the older brother relationship I have with Adya, but Adya's so busy and he has so many students, it's hard to even have a conversation with him. But the times I did, I felt tremendous support and tremendous love. So anyways, I could go on and on about that, but I think it's probably time to end. The thing I will say is, some people don't place much value on having a teacher. I place great value on it because of the support I received. I needed a lot of help. I needed a lot of help. I needed to be whipped into shape. I was easily confused. I went here and there. And because I worked for my teacher, I was just grounded in the teaching. There was no escape from it. He was my bread and butter and my boss and my father. And so it became, inescapable, which was a good thing for me. A good thing for me. What I see what a lot of people do is they kind of dip their toes in and out with teachers, and the teacher never really gets to know them. But something really magical can happen if it's a good teacher, if there's a good connection between you and the individual. If you take the time and make the connection, if you keep showing up on retreats and make this type of thing a priority, you can really deepen and go far. But a lot of people in 2020, 2021, whatever time it is, they just window shop a little bit, dip their toes in. But if you want to go deep, find someone you like, find someone you love, and stay with them. Stay with them. See how far they can take you. And it's not all up to the teacher, of course. You have to you have to do your part as well. Surrendering and showing up. And then eventually it's just a matter of time. So anyways, so nice to be here with y'all. Another reminder about joining us on retreat. I hope to see y'all there. I won't be here on, let's do the date thing again. I believe the 14th and the 17th of March, but I will be here all the other times. So I hope that makes sense. So much love to each and every one of you. And I encourage you, even the times we miss, I still will be holding space for this vibration to flow through. So if you stop and check in and open, you'll still feel this transmission flowing those evenings. So take good care, everyone. So nice to be with you. Thanks for all the support and donations. Good night, everyone. Bye for now.